All right, let's talk about Brazil. It's a country so huge it's often called a continent in its own right, a nation just blessed with an incredible amount of natural wealth. But as we're going to see, right beneath that surface, there's a really deep and complex struggle going on. This is the story of a gentle giant's dilemma, and we're about to unpack what that really means.
First things first, you just can't understand Brazil until you get a sense of its sheer scale. I mean, we're talking about roughly 8.5 million square kilometers. To put that in perspective, that is bigger than the entire contiguous United States. It's so massive, it borders almost every single other country in South America. So yeah, when we say it's a giant, we are not kidding.
And that massive size, well, it brings up a huge question, really, the central question of this whole explainer. Is bigger always better, or is it always stronger? I mean, Brazil has the land, it's got the resources, it has the people. It has all the right ingredients to be a global superpower. But does just being a giant automatically make you strong? To really get to the bottom of Brazil's dilemma, we've got to start with the land itself. Its geography is kind of like the country's source code. It really dictates everything, from its incredible power to its most stubborn, persistent problems. Its whole economy, its politics, it all grows right out of this physical reality.
I mean, just look at this map for a second. Its strategic position is incredible. It borders nearly every other country in South America. Talk about having regional influence. It's got this massive Atlantic coastline, which is, absolutely key for trade. And because it covers such a huge range of latitudes, it's home to this unbelievable diversity of climates and ecosystems.
Let's break that down just a little bit. You've got the Amazon basin, which we all know as the literal lungs of the earth. Then there are the highlands, just packed with mineral wealth. And you have the Pantanal, which is one of the most biodiverse places on the entire planet. Honestly, each one of these regions is practically a world of its own.
And all of this diverse geography, it powers an incredible engine room of natural resources. And this engine, it doesn't just fuel Brazil, it helps power the entire globe. But, and this is a big but, as we're about to see, this incredible wealth comes with a pretty steep price tag. It's a major source of conflict, both inside and outside its borders.
This really paints a picture of just how much Brazil is a global provider. Think about it. The world drinks its coffee. We build our cities with its iron ore, and we even power cars with its ethanol from sugarcane. It is an agricultural and resource superpower, absolutely essential to feeding and building our modern world.
And its energy sector? Same story. Just get a load of the Itaipu Dam. This thing isn't just a big dam. We're talking about one of the largest hydroelectric power producers on the entire planet. It's a perfect symbol of how Brazil has managed to harness its incredible landscape to fuel its growth.
Okay, so you've got this geographic monster just overflowing with resources. But how on earth do you actually govern a nation that's basically the size of a continent? Well, you need a massive human framework to try and manage it all. So let's dive into that system. So what they have is a federal presidential republic. Now, that might sound complicated, but the key thing to get is that power isn't all just concentrated in one place, in the capital. It's shared between the national government and 26 different states. And for a country this huge and this diverse, that kind of structure is absolutely essential.
And inside that federal system, you'll find the classic three branches of power, all laid out in their 1988 Democratic Constitution. You've got the president running the executive branch, then you have the National Congress, which makes the laws, and finally the Supreme Federal Court handling the judiciary. It's a system of checks and balances that, at least in theory, is designed for stability.
But that's the system on paper. In reality, there are some deep, deep cracks in the foundation. All that potential, all that wealth we just talked about, is constantly being undermined by a set of relentless internal problems that threaten to hold this giant back.
First up, corruption. And we're not talking about small stuff here. It's a massive, systemic problem, with scandals like Operation Car Wash reaching the absolute highest levels of power and completely shaking the country's trust in its own institutions.
Then you've got this soul-crushing inequality. This is a country that is literally overflowing with wealth, yet so much of it is concentrated in the hands of a very small elite. It creates this jaw-dropping gap between the rich and the poor.
Next, there's the huge environmental crisis. This constant battle between the need for economic growth and the desperate need for conservation is playing out on a global stage, with the future of the Amazon rainforest literally hanging in the balance. And on top of all that, you have to talk about the rampant urban crime. In the sprawling favelas of its megacities, poverty and violence create this constant state of instability that threatens the very fabric of society.
So you might be thinking, with all these battles raging at home, how does Brazil even show up on the world stage? Well, the thing is, despite all its problems, this gentle giant is stepping out and has some very serious ambitions.
Let's be clear. In its own backyard, in South America, Brazil is the top dog, no question. It's got the largest economy by far, and it drives regional politics through powerful trade blocs like Mercosur. When Latin America speaks, Brazil's voice is almost always the loudest one in the room.
But, its goals are way bigger than just its own continent. Brazil sees itself as a rising global power, and it's ready to play a much bigger role on the world stage.
And you can see these ambitions in action everywhere. You see it as a core member of BRICS, that powerful alliance of emerging economies. You see it pushing hard for a permanent seat on the UN Security Council, and you see it masterfully playing this role of a bridge, trying to connect the wealthy global north with the developing global south.
So it all comes back to this one central conflict, this idea of the two Brazils existing at the same time. On the one hand, you have a global provider, a nation the rest of the world truly depends on for food, for resources, and for the health of our planet. And on the other hand, you have a nation that's basically at war with itself, battling deforestation, inequality, and political chaos.
And that leaves us with one final and frankly unavoidable question. These two versions of Brazil, they exist side by side every single day. The world really needs the global provider to win, to protect its resources. But that nation in conflict, it's fighting for its own survival. So the question is, can this gentle giant actually save the world when it's still so busy trying to save itself?